it. There we are. Hello, hello. Cool. Okay. But yeah, hello, hello. I got the mod working. Apparently it was an issue with the video file that I was playing. Every time we got to the concert with Jessica, it would trigger a video. I thought I might have had a corrupted file and tried to reinstall it. That didn't work. Apparently just the new videos that were messing it up. And so here it is. It's also a bigger screen. It's kind of neat. Anyway, let's get started then. Alright. Where exactly did we leave off? There's that whole thing with Maria and the candy, and Aunt Rosa, and some child abuse. Hello, hello. Yeah, and Rosa seems to kind of just flip a switch and like go off and then flip it back, and she's possessed by the bad witch or some such. Anywho, where we left off last, there's a whole issue of Maria wanting Halloween candy and giving it to people. And then Rosa got mad, smashed up the candy piece. Told her to stay there. Realized that she left. She didn't leave. Ran back and found her talking with Beatrice, who restored the candy and left her kind of dumbfounded. That's like pretty much exactly where we left them off at. The last message was, at last, Rosa was left alone in the rose garden as the winds grew stronger, unable to do anything but pray that what had happened was just a daydream. And then we continue from the perspective of the witch, I believe. Anywho, without further ado, here we go. When the witch reached the entrance hall, Genji could be seen there. Genji welcomed the guest approaching from the entrance hall with a respectful bow. I have been waiting. Oh yeah, I have the voices on here. If they get annoying or distracting or whatever, let me know. Or if you can't hear them, I got the audio set up so I can hear it right. It still has tweaks. I can do if need be. Oh, Mike. Hello, welcome. Been a while. Bad internet can't be worse than mine. Anyway, I have been waiting. Beatrice-sama. It's been quite some time, Genji. You've gotten old. No matter how old it becomes, furniture carries out its work like furniture until the end. I remember how that man's wife used to be jealous of you. Is Kinzo doing well? He's doing extremely well. The witch probably laughed because she knew Kinzo's own doctor had announced that Kinzo didn't have long to live. However, if anyone actually looks at Kinzo and notices his vigor, which wasn't at all what you'd expect from someone nearing the end of his life, they might easily call that doing extremely well. Maybe that's what the witch was laughing at. Let us go and greet him. I look forward to hurling curses at each other after 30 years. As the witch grinned, she started walking, leaving Genji behind. Her gait was like that of a family member who knew the inside of the mansion well. Genji followed her in the manner of one who served her. At that time, Kiri came out of the parlor. She'd probably gone out to fix her makeup or something. And when she saw Genji following a witch, she was surprised, although her expression did not change. I guess for Kinzo had arrived, despite him being almost dead, on the day of the family conference when the fate of his inheritance was to be decided. And furthermore, this person was familiar enough with the Ushimiya family household that Genji was following behind her. Kiri immediately realized that this person she had never met before was deeply important. Kiri and the witch's eyes met. Realizing that it would be rude to pretend not to notice, she greeted the witch. It's a pleasure to meet you. You were Rudolph's second wife, yes? Correct. This is Kiri-sama, Rudolph-sama's current wife. From this exchange, Kiri realized that this was a guest of fairly high rank, even amidst the Ushimiya family. And the fact that this was a guest on that level, coupled with her resemblance to the portrait in the entrance hall, made Kiri's eyes instantly open wide. Pleased to meet you. I'm Kiri. I wonder if this is our first meeting. If we have met before, I apologize for getting your name. So, you intend to force me to state my name, even though you already have a vague idea of the answer? Kiri thought she'd given a sociable and humble greeting. Her expression was slightly cloudy at that openly impressive response. At any rate, this didn't seem to be a person she could grow to like. But if Kiri's guesses were correct, this witch probably held a vital key to what her own husband was most interested in. Something that couldn't help but influence tonight's family conference. Without shooting back a retort, Kiri silently watched her go up the stairs to the second floor with Genji following behind. So, when someone tapped her shoulder from behind, she was so surprised she almost choked. It was Natsuhi. Kiri-san, why are you standing still in a place like this? Are you not feeling well? I'm sorry. I was just fascinated by the portrait of the witch for a bit. You mean the Golden Witch Beatrice? The one whose gold was supposedly necessary for the revived Ushimiya family we see today. Quite a fantastical story. Just what one might one might expect from father. Natsui spoke in a perfectly ordinary way. It was the sort of comment you'd expect from someone convinced that the thought of a witch existing was ridiculous, no more than another of Kinzo's ramblings. However, for some reason, that point of view didn't seem quite right to Kiri now. Just a moment ago, she herself had seen the Golden Witch come in from the entrance hall and climb up the stairs. So, Natsuhi's words made it feel as though someone was trying to deny the existence of that person, or else make it seem like she was never there to begin with. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm getting a bit of a headache. I think I'll rest for a little while. Oh, is that so? Then I have some good headache medicine. I'll get it for you. The hallway in front of Kinzo's study was filled with a sense of sweet poison, peculiar to that green liquor. Genji, who was completely used to it, did not grimace. And the Golden Witch didn't grimace either. How long has he been in there since last he left? I believe it has already been several years. Is he that desperate to turn me into a bird in a cage? How pitiful. By now, you're the bird in the cage. You're the ghost of this study, are you not? How pitiful that he is unable to recognize even that. Until he meets you again, he will probably continue his research, even after literally becoming a ghost. Is it love or madness or delusion? And yet, perhaps even those can form magical power when strong enough. You sad magician. The witch grasped the doorknob to the study. When she did, there was a sound like that of flesh burning and splitting open. It was the sound of the doorknob literally burning the witch's hand. Beatrice-sama. What is this? A ward against magic. Is that person unable to get by without relying on something like this? I've heard that this door would cause you great pain, Beatrice-sama. Shall I open it? No. It is fine. If he wins, I will be a bird in a cage for all eternity. If he loses, only the life of a laughingstock will be left. The life of a pitiful magician who went mad with love and lost everything. Already, Kinzo and even I are nothing more than pieces laid out on the game board. All that is left is for the roulette to decide who wins and who loses. Until the roulette shows its result, there is no need for me and Kinzo to meet again. The witch looked at her hand, which was beginning to heal bit by bit, even though it had been horribly burned. Or perhaps that is why he has had this ward here in the first place. Yes, perhaps even that is honorable in its own way. By now, everything sits on top of Kinzo's game board. I like it, Kinzo. Allow me to enjoy my game with you. Allow me to enjoy the failure of the final gamble, of the old magician who fell in love with me and threw away his entire life. Alright. Okay. Who is it? Excuse me. I have brought lunch. Enter. Excuse me. After receiving approval, Kennen entered the VIP room, pushing a serving cart that carried lunch. The servants called this room the Witch's VIP room. That was because Kinzo strictly ordered that it always be kept clean so that it could be used at any time. Even so, guests would not be allowed in this room, no matter who they were. That's why, at some point, the servants had started calling it the VIP room, which was supposed to be set aside only to welcome the special person Kinzo waited for, the witch from that portrait. And today, Canon realized that this was absolutely true. When he entered the room, the blonde-haired witch was gazing out the window. Outside, the rain was no longer falling weakly. As she looked out at the beautiful rose garden, which had been tended to over several days for today's sake, as she saw the winds and rain ravage it, was she struck by some sentimental feelings? Canon was not able to tell anything more from her back, which faced him. I will prepare the meal, Beatrice-sama. Canon went out of his way to call out the witch's name, hoping that she'd turn around. He wanted to know. He wanted to know if the witch who tempted him and Shannon in the past had already appeared again. When he did, the witch whose name had been called laughed, her back still facing him. Holding back her voice, she laughed. Canon was startled. It was almost as though she had read his mind and knew that he had called out to her, hoping to make her turn around. Hey, quick soup! It smells good. It appears Kraus hired a good cook. Yes. He is called Goda and was employed here recently. There's nothing better than being skilled at cooking. Delicious food completes the 3 pillars of pleasure for living in the human world. It is the secret to preventing boredom after 1,000 years. Canon and the witch's eyes met. Then she grinned. Without a doubt. Certainly. This was clearly the witch from that day, Beatrice. The witch that no one but he and Shannon could see in the past finally held a form, and had arrived openly as a guest through the entrance hall. Beatrice. Sama. It has been a long time. Cannons of furniture. It has been quite some time. Canon tried to remember to be polite to this guest for the time being, but the visit of the suspicious witch made dark clouds start to enshroud his heart, especially considering that today was the family conference. You appear to be uneasy about what I plan to do, now that I have appeared. Am I right? Canon didn't force an answer. This witch probably reads minds, so it's pointless to go to the trouble of saying it out loud. Of course, she could read even his inner resistance. So the witch giggled at Canon's childish defiance. I came to fulfill my filial promise with Kinzo. Her final promise? With the master? I lent Kinzo a mountain of gold. When Kinzo gives that up, it will be returned to me with interest. I came to accept that interest tonight. I don't know what you're talking about. However, uncertainty began to gather in his heart. Whatever this witch had to say couldn't be anything good. There's no mistake. Whenever witches have something to say, it's never anything good. You are correct. However, like scissors, the potential of witches depends entirely on how they are used. Sometimes there are those like King Solomon who succeed in great exploits. However, most who make use of us end up meeting a cruel fate, just like in fairy tales. But Kinzo is crafty. He has incorporated even my collection of the interest into the ceremony. Is he an absurdly powerful magician who can surpass even me? Or else a mere fool possessed by madness? Amusing. Truly amusing. Kenny couldn't guess what the witch was muttering and laughing about. All he knew was that anything that made this witch laugh must have the exact opposite meaning for everyone else. And in the back of his mind, the horrifying words the witch had spat at him in the past began to resurface. What? Did you think I'd lend you my power and ask for nothing in exchange? I'll gladly assist a pair in love, and in exchange I'll enjoy watching the cruel fate they'll eventually meet. I've never come across a better show, not over the course of 1,000 years. New profile, huh? Oh yes, you did. Could it be that you... Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the gold land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. The witch suddenly began to recite a bizarre poem. It was something he remembered hearing. Could it be the witch's epitaph? There was no mistake. It was the epitaph that accompanied the portrait of the witch Kinzo had put on display. The relatives had guessed that it referred to the location of the hidden gold, but no one knew what it meant for sure. The witch suddenly began reciting that epitaph. Canon, since you are furniture, I imagine you've heard about it from Kinzo. The day when everything will be returned to the Golden Land has come. Rejoice. The day when you will be free from the shame of living as furniture has finally arrived. I believe you've wanted that for a long time. The furniture, which finds no value in its own existence, merely existing day to day, must be nothing but agony. To those with souls, this world is worth clinging to, but those without souls find this world to be full of nothing but suffering. Complicated expressions flitted across Canon's face. This was the day of release that Canon had been looking forward to. However, the coming of this day had been mercilessly sudden, and for some reason, he didn't like the hateful tone used by this witch as she informed him of the coming long-awaited day of rest. Canon couldn't even decide what emotion he should be feeling. Why do you not rejoice? Could you actually have some regrets left in the real world? As mere furniture? I have no regrets, because I am furniture. You truly are a model specimen of furniture. How nice, how nice. However, it won't be any fun if you have no regrets at all. Are you saying regrets are how you find pleasure? That is correct. Most witches who live for 1,000 years get tired of life. In order to escape boredom, I adorn people's fates with fruit and brandy, and cook them like cakes. I find humans dancing through oppressive fates inside an oven to be so very entertaining. You see, I'm actually a tad famous in this regard. So much so that rare guests come from far away to see my skills at cooking. Perhaps this is something that mere furniture cannot understand. Canon couldn't understand what the witch was saying. However, he fully realized that this was a terrifying being who treated the fate of humans as a show, enjoying it whenever some harm befell them. However, furniture has no soul or life, much less a fate. Pitiful furniture does nothing but serve until the day they're released from the real world. To furniture like that, the witch, who had come to release them from everything, was a being to be received with overflowing affection. Even though the day Canon should have been waiting impatiently for her had come, he was confused by his own inability to accept it easily. Why was it? The face of Shannon, the person he loved as a sister, rose to his mind, and for some reason, Jessica's face did too. Canon bit his lower lip hard enough that it hurt. Thinking about Jessica like that was something furniture must never do. Even though he'd complained about Shannon's relationship, why was it that Jessica rose into his mind at a time like this? He felt a little shameful at his own naivete, and to forget about Jessica, he turned his thoughts to Shannon. Shannon is also furniture. She has no reason not to rejoice at the coming of the day when all will return to nothingness. But Shannon, though her relationship with George has experienced an emotional forbidden to furniture, even though she isn't qualified to be bonded with him, she's still trapped in a dream that she isn't allowed to have. Will Shannon be able to joyfully accept this development? No, she won't. Shannon still has lingering regrets. Those will probably become a great source of pain and torture for her. And those lingering regrets were planted by none other than this witch. Why? Because that would be more interesting. Nothing more. This day, that Shannon should have been waiting impatiently for, will probably be a harsh burden for her, giving her emotions that she must never experience. I thank you for granting me, us furniture, the day of our release. And I hate you for making this day so difficult for Shannon to accept. I wanted to make you suffer from your regrets as well, just like Shannon. However, you continued to live like furniture with foolish honesty, never getting ensnared by me. And yet, it seems you love Shannon a little too dearly, right? Shannon's regrets are now your regrets. Will those feelings transform into hatred for me? If you wish to kill me, give it a try. As Ginzo's furniture, you should have at least that much power, right? However, if you kill me, then the day of rest for furniture will not come for all eternity. Could you bear to live with that? Are you truly capable of resisting when I try to release you? Kneel. What? Kneel and kiss my shoes. Otherwise, I will leave this place. I'll go back and never show myself again for all eternity. So, Canon, do you think you could bear to live like that? If the door to the Golden Land is opened, your hard life as furniture will end. If you desire, I can even give you life as a human. After that, you'll be on the same level as Jessica. Surely you want to experience the taste of love. There's no point trying to hide it. After seeing Shannon indulging in the sea of sweet love, you grew jealous. You are sorely tempted to know the taste of love. Stop it. Stop it. Are you trying to ensnare me again? I won't be reduced to a toy for your amusement. Oh? Then I will be satisfied with Shannon alone. After all, you aren't the only one who was implanted with a seed. Even fruiting plants sometimes fail to bear fruit, after all. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, after the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. The witch recited the epitaph again. It was so sudden and diverged so strongly from the current topic. However, that challenging smile made it seem almost as though she was using that epitaph as a threat against Canon. Do you not understand? For the ceremony of the epitaph to succeed, at the second twilight, 2 who are close must be offered as sacrifices. It could be any 2 who are close, a husband and wife, or even a pair of lovers. According to the rules of the ceremony, who will be selected is up to me to decide on a whim. Don't you think there could be no more fitting sacrifice for the second twilight than Shannon as she is now? You dirty... Canon realized something. Until the day he thought he'd given up everything else and lived as furniture, acting like furniture. But in reality, that wasn't true. He loved Shannon too dearly. Therefore, when Shannon was in pain, Cannon shared in that. If only Shannon had continued to live as furniture, indifferently like Cannon, without any regrets in this world, he wouldn't have had to be in so much pain. The witch planned to toy with Shannon, who had known the taste of love. No, whom she had taught the taste of love, as she killed her. She wouldn't be welcome into the Golden Land, and granted a compassionate release. Instead, if the witch had her way, she'd be used as a sacrifice, subjected to the utmost of torture and pain, and forcibly turned into a human foundation for this evil ceremony. And this witch would probably make Shannon meet this horrible fate, for no reason other than that it was amusing to her. Furthermore, she was threatening to do this so that she could make Cannon, who had never submitted to the witch, finally give in. It was that simple. In the end, though he had tried to resist the witch and avoid pleasing her, he'd only made things more amusing for her. After all, he was furniture. No, a toy. They were nothing but toys meant only to distract her from her boredom. Damn. What will you do, Cannon? If you kneel, I might refrain from choosing Shannon as a sacrifice. See? I've always wanted to make a toy like you surrender someday. Without even a fragment of elegance, the witch sneered at Cannon and laughed indecently. That's right, she'd predicted Cannon's submission even before he'd made that decision himself. Cannon chose to get down on both knees in front of the witch. It didn't matter what happened to himself. However, the one thing he couldn't bear to see was Shannon, who had given him his only reason to live during his days as furniture, being toyed like this. That was why kissing the shoes of the witch was an easy oath for Cannon to make. When his quivering lips actually touched the witch's shoe, Beatrice felt a look of ecstasy rise to her face, then laughed with a voice filled to bursting. At that moment, the witch, who had grown bored of life after 1,000 years, was completely filled with the evil emotion that she lived for. Oaths are never really a good thing in stories. When lunch ended, the relatives moved to the parlor. Rosa had bought a high-class brand of black tea from a famous store in Ginza. That had been served, and the parlor was filled with pleasant aroma. Since the children were there too, the adults tried to interact like normal relatives on the surface, talking peacefully about recent events and how their children were growing up. It had started raining, so the children couldn't do anything but sit here like this, watching TV, unable to go outside. Maria was apparently a TV kid, and she kept watching a boring daytime program without getting bored, giggling all by herself. Maybe. You can if you want. I won't stop you. But the curse will be on you. At first, Battler joined in, seeming to deepen his relationship with Maria. But he had gotten up early that morning and was gradually hit by a wave of drowsiness. Oh, that's a big yawn. Did you get up really early this morning? Well, something like that. Now that all the tension's gone, I've started getting sleepy while listening to the sound of the rain. Tension? You call freaking out like that tension? At least it is for me. Father gave another yawn and slowly laid down on the sofa. He really did look tired. George and the others had tried talking to him, thinking it was a sign of boredom, but when they realized he really was sleepy, they decided to let him be. My. They say that if you lie down right after eating, it'll become a mackerel. Stop kidding around. Goda-san said we'd be having calf steak tonight. That'd make it mackerel steak. Kumasawa-san. He looks pretty tired. Could you get him a blanket? There you go. Kumasawa brought a blanket over from the shelf. The large parlor wasn't cold, but the air had gotten a little chilly. So when Butler took the blanket, he immediately wrapped himself up in it like a turtle. You really were sleepy. When would you like to wake up? I'll wake you. Nah, can't say I've got any particular requests. You can wake me up if you need something from me. And if you don't, just let me sleep forever. Night. Oh, Butler's sleeping. A nap? A nap? Ooh, I'll do it too. Hey, Maria. Butler's sleepy, so you've got to leave him alone. Kumasawa-san, could you give us another blanket? It was doubtful whether Maria really wanted to take a nap. She probably saw Butler wrapped up in a blanket and wanted to do the same. When she received the blanket from Kumasawa, she joyfully wrapped herself up in it and set up camp again in front of the TV. Eesh. And just when we'd finally gathered all the cousins together after 6 years, this guy doesn't have a clue that he's the main guest of this family conference, does he? Is he? I can still hear you. We took it easy eating lunch, and there's even a typhoon and rain outside now. Since I've got nothing to do, that means it isn't my turn yet. I wonder about that. If you have a passive attitude like that and never do anything unless something else happens, your life will be pretty boring, right? No, that's not what I meant. How should I put it? At times like this, I like to think about it this way. It isn't my turn. If this were a play, it would be my turn to go on stage. So the best thing to do is stay on the wings of the stage. You're always the main character of your own life, right? Why are you acting like you're in a supporting role? You've got to move forward by yourself and get up on stage. That's not what I mean. I'm trying to say it's not my turn yet. Look me on that. Sorry. I'm sleeping, my mind's a mess. Give me a break. Yeah, they do an interesting job of touching up some of the outfits. No kidding. You're so sleepy you're spouting nonsense. It's not quite nonsense. Let's leave him be for now. Hey, I can't let him get away with saying crap like that. You're always the main character in your own life. I've got serious issues with what Butler's saying. He's just half asleep. Don't take him too seriously. It's just that lack of guts. You know, not wanting to go on stage just because you think you can't be the main character. Not because he can't. Something about it just pisses me off. With this in his eyes, Jessica gazed out the window at the gray rose garden obscured by rain. When she put her forehead up against the glass, the pleasantly cool sensation seemed to chase away memories she was trying to forget. Oh, it just wasn't your turn yet? That it? Then, just when will you get up on the stage? In that case, who the heck is the main character on this stage? He's already here. Dang, it's like you think you can do whatever you want. What the hell is all this? It's all screwed up. I was merely amused that your reason for denying me was based on whether there were 18 or 19 people. I just tried changing my opening move. No more. Your greatest basis for denying me is simply that I wasn't laid out as a piece on the game board. So all I have to do is start by focusing on the queen, like this. Isn't opening the road to the queen on your first turn one of the classic moves in chess? Or move checkmate. Quit playing around. There's no way I can accept something like this, right? Oh, which came in? Walking right through the entrance hall, you say? Don't mess with me. What's this? In the last game, I gave you incredible freedom in making your moves, correct? This time, all I'm doing is moving my pieces in response to your moves. Are you already giving up, right at the start? You bastard. Don't mess with me. Like hell I'd give in. Great move. Go ahead and just move however you like. Okay, so your turn's far from over, is it? Move however you want. Form a huge battle formation while you still can. I'll definitely withstand you. I'll definitely corner you. Come at me as best you can. I don't want you to have any excuses. You aren't even close to making me accept something like a witch. That's right. Just now, it looked like Maria's candy was fixed with magic. But you might have actually had another one of the same candy hidden in your pocket, and switched them with that little show, make it only look like you fixed it with magic. Yeah, that's right. That has to be it. It's useless. It's all useless. Oh? Rosa saw the moment when the candy split into butterflies, correct? Who cares about that? That was a hallucination, or a trick. Or maybe she just saw it wrong. That isn't a big problem. So, you threw out the part you can't explain as trivial. I see. Is that your move in response to mine? You've dug your own grave, Ushiromiya Battler. It still isn't your turn yet. Allow me to make my move for a little longer. It has barely begun, the turn of the witch. Interesting, so they're responding to moves? How does that work? Are they like changing the story? Or is it the same story? This is getting hard to keep track of. When they started hearing Battler's snores, the relatives went their separate ways, leaving the parlor and letting Battler sleep in silence. Even though it had been so lively in the parlor with so many people gathered there, when all of them scattered at once and were swallowed up by the vast mansion, it created an eerie silence, with no sound except that of the rain. Nope. I haven't met a person like that even once. Aniki? I haven't met them. Kiri-san, is that true? Even I only greeted her briefly when she came into the entrance hall. She looked like she was a bit over 20. I told her my name, but she didn't tell me hers. She was being guided by Genji-san, and I saw her go up to the second floor. So, it'd probably be faster to find Genji-san and ask him directly. Still, what a strange turn. The mystery woman had spoken to Kiri. Without naming herself, she'd sneered that Kiri should have had a vague idea as to her identity. That brought someone to mind. And then there was her look-alike, the witch in the portrait. Was this person trying to say she was the witch of the portrait herself? I realized she was probably laughing at me for that reason. Even though it was our first meeting, she spoke as though she knew I'm your second wife. Aniki, you really don't know anyone like that. You talk too much. I've never seen a blonde woman like that go in or out of this mansion. That kind of thing doesn't matter. The problem's what happens if that woman starts calling herself Beatrice, if she starts calling herself the manager of Father's assets. Or maybe she plans to call herself his mistress's daughter, and demand that she get a share of the inheritance. Either way, we've had one heck of a joker slipped into the deck. Did Nissan bring her here? Or did Father? This is bad. We thought we could manage something if we could corner Anki in our talks. But this takes us back to square one. I don't know what kind of schemes you've been making when I'm not around, dear. But it looks like we've been given a little time to form a counter strategy. Yeah, better to have some time to prepare than to have that blonde-haired Nachon suddenly appear at the dinner table and scare the shit out of us. Until we know why she's appeared, there's a limit to the kinds of counters we can make. What could she be after? Isn't it obvious? She's going to claim that she's the rightful heir to Father's inheritance. Father's still captivated by Beatrice. If he had a daughter with her, you can bet that he'd want to leave all his future fortune with her. He might even thrust some strange will in front of us. If we take it to court, we could probably claim a quarter of a half of it. But it would probably be impossible to divvy out the inheritance until that's settled. We can't have that. I can't, and neither can you, Rudolph. And the same goes for Rosa, right? Each one of us needs to gather money quickly for our own reasons. It's our biggest weak point. So, what are they after? Jerry, can you guess? This is all news to me, but it sounds like we're starting from the premise that we've got an urgent need to collect money, right? Jerry-san. In a man's business, you sometimes need funding when you're on the offensive. Please understand that. What's this, Rudolph? You didn't tell Kiri-san about it? Sorry, I wasn't really hiding it. Actually, it was kind of... It's alright. If you decided this wasn't something you needed to tell me about, I won't press you about it right here. What's more important is finding out what this golden witch is after, right? Yeah. Now that you know what we know, can you see how the enemy might come at us? Once made it, one piece on the game board. I realize when they go into like that tea party set, that's them looking down at the game board. But the thing I'm having trouble is this the same happening, the same sequence of events that was in the first episode? Or has it been altered? Like, taking a break here for a second, like, in the first one, when Maria was, hiding out in the typhoon with the white umbrella, Rosa was asking who gave it to her and like freaking the hell out, and she said Beatrice. If that happened after this event, she would know that Beatrice gave it to her, so she wouldn't be asking. Or maybe something. It's just some of the sequences seem just slightly shifted. It's not the same. Okay, so basically this is a alternate version of what happened. Alright. I can go with that then. I thought it was the same. Okay. Rudolph had a certain measure of trust in Kiri's unique thinking technique. Chessboard thinking. Of course, it didn't give him any more peace of mind than fortune-telling. But every time Rudolph was polishing up some important strategy, he'd give a great deal of thought to Kiri's advice. For a while, Kiri pressed her finger against her forehead, considering. Judging by the fact that her arrival was kept hidden until today, she must be planning to catch us by surprise in some way. We can't tell for sure whether she's after assets or being recognized as a relative. However, her coming was kept secret until today, which probably means she didn't want us to take any measures against her, something we might have done if we'd known beforehand. So her goal is probably something that could be hindered if we were to take measures against her. Understand? I get it. So, if she had a will that Father had already written, or something that could prove that she's a blood relative. If she had some unshakable, rock-solid proof like that, you'd think she'd announce it beforehand. That's right. On the contrary, since we're in a position to doubt her, she should have brought a lawyer or an expert. and thrust some completely undeniable proof before us, if she could. So, the mere fact that she's launching a surprise attack shows that our foe can't win with a frontal assault. Makes sense. If a trump card can win no matter what, it's best to play it out in the open. If you play it in a roundabout way, it might end up weakening its impact. Skipping to the conclusion, we can probably expect to be faced with some huge surprise. Something related either directly or indirectly to the inheritance problem that's on everyone's minds. Our opponent probably plans to overawe us simply by the impact of this shock. However, no matter how great the impact might be, it cannot be absolute. In other words, we have enough leeway to take advantage of this. You've really got brains. Even understanding just this much is really reassuring. In other words, you're telling us not to get sucked into our opponent's pace. In the end, it's an extremely simple conclusion. No matter what our opponent brings up, we should deal with it calmly without rushing things. This is just the very first step in the art of negotiation. You really can't say you've predicted your opponent's thoughts with just this. Come on. Just like usual, that was pretty good. Now that we know we've got a little leeway to attack, it helps us relax a bit. What we don't know is how she's connected to Kraus Nissan. Will it be a surprise for Kraus Nissan too? Or was he actually the one who called her here in the first place? If it's the latter, that might make things very troublesome. That's right. Secretly calling a mystery woman on the day of the family conference. It would be in terrible taste, but it does feel like something Nissan would do. Aniki, let's do this. As long as she can't clearly prove her identity, we won't accept her possession in any way. That would be for the best. Already, she's refused to introduce herself to Kiri-san. We can't let her conference be disturbed by the statements of some unknown woman. She might even show us proof that she's a blood relative. If she can prove father's blood runs through her veins, like with a maternity record document, there's nothing we can do. It's always possible to suspect that physical evidence has been faked, and even if it's real, in order to prove that the person in the document is the person we see, we need to check their condition at a hospital. At the very least, it would be impossible to prove that now on Rokkenjima. You're right. So, in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now on Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. We can't believe anything until a typhoon passes and they prove it to us at the proper place. Spotting all kinds of holes and stuff like this is Aniki's specialty. We'll be counting on you. Are you joking? You'll be helping too. We need the money. We need it quickly, and a large sum. Our fates are all tied together in this. As if we just stand by and let some suddenly appearing mystery woman destroy the inheritance we're after. Rudolph and Eva always formed a united front as siblings at times like this, sickened by the idea that their own inheritance might be snatched away by an outsider. Kiri noticed how indomitable they looked, shook her head slightly, and gave a small sigh as she gazed out the window. Outside, it was still raining heavily, and everything was gray, having lost all vibrance. The lush garden that the sun had shone on earlier now felt like a lie. For some reason, the words Eva said a second ago kept repeating in Kiri's head. So, in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now in Rokkenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. There was an odd nuance to those words. At that moment, the island was closed off by the typhoon and isolated. They had access to no public institutions and no hospital. So on this island, no matter what manner of proof related to the outside world was shown, it would always be possible to call it a lie. It would be impossible to prove that something was the truth. Now that they were isolated from the outside, all truths whose proof lay in the outside world would be called lies. So does that mean that right now, on this Rokkenjima, no truth exists at all? Does it mean that everything will now be ruled by lies alone? It almost gives the illusion that we've left the human world of truth and have been shut away inside another world, one of lies. Kiri remembered that woman's appearance one more time. She remembered both what she had looked like and the witch of the portrait. On this island, which had been cut off from the world of humans and shut away in the world of non-humans, a non-human being has come to visit. Kiri couldn't think of the smile that appeared on the woman's face as anything other than a portent of misfortune. I get the feeling my chessboard thinking missed a vital premise, one that'll be necessary to understand that misfortune-bearing smile. Yes, that smile made me feel as though someone inhuman was mocking me. I based my reasoning on the assumption that our opponent is a human like us. However, just like this island is now, she may be a being that isn't human, and human values may not matter to her. If that's true, all of our reasoning is useless. For what reason has the witch been invited here today? Only one thing is certain. Now, in this instant, she's staying somewhere in this vast mansion. Maria, around lunchtime today, we met her outside, right? A woman. Who was she? Oh, I said it over and over. Beatrice. Maria, did you ever meet Beatrice before that? Oh, I've met her every year. Every year? In this mansion on Rokkenjima? Oh. I don't know what U means. Is that true? Yes. How long have you been meeting her? How many years ago did it start? Oh. I don't know. You don't know? What do you mean? Was it last year? 2 years ago? Longer than that. Oh. Rosa was astonished. Only the Ushirimiya family mansion existed on this island, but there couldn't have been any humans other than themselves here. And yet Maria said she'd been meeting with this suspicious woman every year during the family conference. If what Maria said was the truth, then that strange woman called Beatrice had been at the family conference every year. That's insane. Is Maria saying that eerie woman was at the family conference every year, and none of us ever noticed it? Even though Rosa had just met the woman herself a couple of hours ago in the rose garden, she was overcome with a strange emotion that told her not to accept that existence. What in the world did I meet with earlier today in the rose garden? As the typhoon grew nearer and the winds roared. Ooh. Maria, you said you've met with her every year. What do you two do when you meet? Oh, we sing songs and learn magic. And I learn how to draw magic circles. Really? That's incredible. Maria, you often draw scribbles. I mean, magic circles in your notebook, right? Did she teach you that too? Oh, you know what? Beatrice drew examples to teach me. Come on, look. Maria joyfully fished around in her handbag. Then she drew out a single notebook and began opening to that page. Most of the pages were covered with drawings that were literally scribbles. All of them were occult-like things. And, while it might sound rude to Maria, who was joyfully flipping through the pages, they were all creepy. Look, here! Beatrice drew it. Oh. Each one of the pages in the group Maria opened to had an eerie magic circle. Furthermore, at a glance, Rosa could see that Maria hadn't drawn them. The strength of the strokes, the thickness of the lines, how clean the shape was. By itself, it wasn't enough to guess the background of the person who had written it, but it was enough for Rosa to be sure that it was someone older than Maria. Rosa had to accept it now. There really was a person on this Rokkenjima that she herself hadn't known existed until now. And this person had come to the family conference every year to play with Maria. Maria? Does the witch Beatrice live here? Or does she live outside the island, like us? Oh. Beatrice is the Witch of Rokkenjima, so she lives on this island. So, you're saying she's on the island even on days when it isn't the family conference, right? Oh. I don't know what "oo" means. Yes or no? Yes. Ooh. What in the... I can't believe it. I can't believe it. How long has this unknown witch been living on this island? I used to live on this island. I lived on this island, passing the time in the mansion, in the rose garden. And even so, I never encountered a witch like that. Right? Mama? Mama? What's wrong? Mama? My head hurts. I was probably getting a little mixed up with my memories from when I was a young girl. When I was young, I was terrified of the witch, unlike Maria. So for me, the name Beatrice was a synonym for terror. Surely, my fear from those days has been revived by the appearance of a woman going by that name. She can't be a witch. She's obviously a human calling herself Beatrice, right? That's right. That witch entrusted me with an envelope. What in the world could that be? Rosa pulled that western envelope out of her pocket. It was one of the envelopes that bore the Ushirimiya family crest, which Kinzo used for his personal letters, and its red sealing wax had even been sealed by the head's ring, which Kinzo held, which meant this envelope belonged to the Ushirimiya family head. In other words, it was from Father. Why was the woman calling herself Beatrice holding it, and why did she give it to me? That's right. I'm sure she said to read this aloud at dinner. What in the world could be written inside? A sense of uncertainty gripped Rosa, as if opening this envelope might let loose incredible misfortune. However, at the same time, a little curiosity sprouted up too, urging her to find out what was written inside before the other siblings could. Using common sense, one might guess that it contained a huge decision somehow related to Father's inheritance. Actually, since she received it from a woman who called herself Beatrice, there simply had to be some connection. Does it mean this person wants, not just the 4, but a total of 5 people to be included in the inheritance? I need a large sum of money, and I can't wait long. I feel like such a sinful daughter for discussing Father's inheritance while he's still alive. But this is no time to spout off cheap ideals, and I've even colluded with Rudolf Nissan and Eva Nason in order to get some money out of Kraus Nissan. Coming from that position, I can't help but see the appearance of the witch as a sign of approaching misfortune. What could be written in here? I'm sure it's something frightening. Shall I read it secretly myself first? The witch requested that it be read at the dinner table with everyone gathered. But if that's what she wanted, why couldn't she just read it aloud herself at dinner? Why did she go to all the trouble of entrusting it to me? Simply put, it's because she doesn't mind if I read it secretly beforehand. It'd be better to secretly read the contents first. I understand that'd mean breaking my promise, but this is no longer the time for cheap ideals. Depending on the contents, I should probably discuss it with Eva Nason and Rudolf Nissan too. They're always really good thinkers when it comes to this kind of thing. When I gulped and put my hand to the red sealing wax, something suddenly pulled on my sleeve and I let out a small scream. What? Maria? Don't scare me like that. What is it? Oh. You mustn't. Huh? And Maria's expression was the same portent of misfortune she'd felt from that witch. And it sent a tingle up her spine. Beatrice told Mama to read that letter during dinner. You mustn't break a promise with a witch. That's not it. I just wanted to look at the envelope for a second. I'll keep my promise. After all, I always tell you to keep your promises. Of course I keep my promises. Yes, Mama's a good girl. That laugh. It isn't cute, so stop it. Come to think of it, you received a letter too, Maria. What was written inside? I haven't opened it. Beatrice said I mustn't open it until the time to open it comes. I'm taking good care of it. Oh. I see. You listen well to what Beatrice says, don't you, Maria? Oh. I'm Beatrice's disciple, so I listen well to what my teacher says. I see. Rosa realized something. Mixed in with Maria's gaze was the glint of someone that wasn't her. If Rosa broke the rules and opened the envelope here, Beatrice would definitely learn of it. Because Maria was the witch's disciple. Maria was in contact with that witch. I'll keep my promise. So tell Beatrice not to worry, okay? Oh, I'll tell her. Hey, Maria. If I wanted to speak to Beatrice, how could I meet her? I don't know. Beatrice is very fickle, so she always appears suddenly. I don't know a way to get her to meet me. But you know, she's always watching me. So if I get in trouble, she'll definitely come and save me afterwards. She's definitely erased her form and is hiding close to me. Don't I always tell you to stop laughing like that? Rosa reflexively hit Maria on the head. That put a stop to Maria's laughing, but it wasn't able to erase the color that had risen to those eyes, color that seemed to bear a portent of misfortune. Rosa swore. She swore that, at least until they left this island, she would not leave Maria alone. She couldn't allow an unknown being to make direct contact with her daughter any longer. Alrighty then. Maria still hasn't come back. I wonder if she's getting scolded by Aunt Rosa again. Ever since they'd met Maria at the airport, she'd been romping around, chatting about Halloween the whole time. But maybe she'd cut loose a little too much, acting a little boisterous on the plane, on the boat, and during lunch, because Rosa had cautioned her several times. At times like that, Aunt Rosa tended not to scold her much in front of people. More often, she would take Maria aside and scold her alone. So, since Maria had been called off somewhere, they'd figured she must be getting scolded. When they looked at the clock, they realized it was almost 6 o'clock. Of course, they couldn't imagine she'd been getting scolded all this time. Maybe it was time for some anime she watched every week to start. She probably hadn't left the mansion's parlor. Maybe Battler-sama woke up and they've been playing together. After all, Maria-chan thinks of Battler-kun as a new friend. She must have had a lot of fun when she played Halloween with Battler-kun at the airport. Battler looked like he was having a lot of fun himself. Maybe he's gotten big, but he hasn't changed a bit. That's true. I get the feeling Battler-sama was gracious enough to remain as he was 6 years ago. Shannon, do you remember what he was like then? Yes. Because he was, well, very energetic. I also remember the four of us playing together 6 years ago. Shannon acted a lot like a big sister back then. That's right. I get the feeling she was even more dependable than she is now. Back then, I didn't truly understand my place, so I did quite a few rude things. Don't worry about understanding your place in that sense. When you're on the job is one thing, but when you're taking your break with us, like now, I'd rather you stay and be friendly, just like the old days. That's right. There's nothing wrong with acting differently, depending on whether you're the servant Shannon or off-duty Sayo. You aren't a slave, you're just working as a servant, right? I think of you, Shannon. No, Sayo, as my oldest friend. Thank you very much, my lady. It seems that Shannon understood the hidden meaning behind Jessica's words. After all, she heard a bit about Jessica and Kennen's history from both of them. Apparently, George had heard something of that history too. He walked towards the window and looked up at the darkening rainy sky. Kennen may still be childish in some ways, but I think he's starting to grow a bit in his way of thinking. Well, come on, quit it already. Well, I guess I let myself get swept away by the mood once or twice. You know, after watching you two, I might have gotten a bit jealous, feeling like I was getting left behind. But forget about me. More importantly, how's it going between you two? Looks like it's going pretty good, huh? I wonder. Yes, it's going very well. Shannon was lost for words, her face red, while George answered brightly and immediately. That carefree attitude made it easy to see that the relationship was proceeding so perfectly it'd make anyone envious. Dang, I'm jealous. So, does that mean Shannon's gonna resign and have a party soon? I wonder. Oh, there's a good question. I wonder what she'll say. George laughed teasingly as though pressing Shannon for an answer. It was probably the way they usually flirted when they were alone. Jessica could only smile bitterly and say, yes, yes, thank you. That's enough. I have a dream. I don't just mean some ambition to become the leader of my own domain and business. I also dream of building a happy family together with a partner I can spend my life with. I want 2 kids at the very least. It'd be nice to be able to do some sports as a whole family. And many more things besides that. I haven't talked with Shannon about that kind of thing. Though, every time I do, she always laughs and says I'm getting ahead of myself. For some reason, even at the age I am now, I find myself thinking about what it'd be like to live peacefully in my old age. With healthy grown-up kids and grandchildren running around all over the place. If only I could spend the rest of my life at a slow pace surrounded by that, together with Shannon forever. Yeah, you're definitely getting ahead of yourself. But, how should I say it? It sounds like you, George Nissan. Being surrounded by a family like that would probably be so wonderful. The ideal family I've painted in my mind is something like that. To Shannon, who'd been raised in an orphanage, that harmonious image of a family was probably something to be yearned for. And George, who had made an absolute promise to grant that wish for her, may truly have been a fitting person for her to spend her life with. To Jessica, Shannon was a precious friend. George was surely the one most fitted to entrust that friend's future to. Well, I don't want to throw cold water on you guys, but Uncle Hideyoshi aside, what are you going to do about Aunt Eva? Won't it be pretty tough to win her over? There's no reason for anyone to worry about something like that. No one but me gets any say in who I choose to be my partner. I will bring Shannon happiness. Whose permission do I need for that? Oh. George Nissan. That was cool. Can't believe you can say stuff that embarrassing out loud. I don't remember you ever being that kind of character in the past. As they say, if you don't see a boy for 3 days, you should watch him closely. I grow as much as anyone. I intend to study more and more and grow to be a man Shannon deserves. The one who can bring her happiness. Even George realizes how embarrassing the words coming out of his mouth were. His face turned very slightly red and he scratched his head. George-san. It's okay. I'm sure Mother will be difficult, but you can leave that to me. You'll see. I'll make all the relatives accept you as my partner. Awesome. I'm jealous of you, Shannon. Seriously. I'm very grateful that you're willing to go so far. Come to think of it, I'm starting to feel like a third wheel here. Maybe I'd better leave, huh? As Jessica rose with a forced smile from the bed she'd been sitting on, the phone rang. Before Jessica picked up the receiver, wondering what this could be about, Shannon looked at the clock and jumped. Apparently, she'd spent too much time on her break. I'm sorry. I forgot it was time for work. Then, if you'll excuse me. At the same time Jessica picked up the phone, Shannon began dashing out of the room. Shannon. Again. The usual time, at the usual place. Yes. Excuse me. Hello, it's Jessica. Ah, Genji-san. Yeah, Shannon's going back to you guys now. We held her up. So please don't scold her. Yeah, yes. I see. So it's almost time for them to get ready for dinner. Many plates were lined up on the counter in the kitchen. Preparations for dinner were proceeding steadily. The number of plates lined up there was 19. That was one more than should have been set up for the annual family conference. I can't accept it. Why can't I deliver it directly? Goda-san flared up at Genji, paying no heed to the pot that was spitting steam. The master enjoyed eating alone in his study, so his food needed to be served in that room. However, that was something that always happened. Of course, Goda-san would want to set the table for the master with his own hands, since he'd put his heart and soul into his cooking. But the master has imposed strict rules that none but the servants bring the golden eagle crest to enter his study. So while Goda-san would be able to greet the master from outside the study, not once had he been granted the honor of carrying his cooking inside. Goda-san was always irritated by this. Of course, he was a newcomer in terms of years of service. However, he had piled up plenty of experience from his previous jobs, and he was quite confident that he'd be able to perform in front of Kinso in a manner that would do him no disservice. And yet, simply because he was not permitted to wear the golden eagle, he still hadn't been blessed with his honor. Can you imagine what damage that would do to his pride? You might think tonight was a repeat of that, but it wasn't. Because tonight, there was a person other than the master who wanted their food carried to the room. Apparently, this person is an extremely rare and honored guest, and we've been given strict orders to treat them in the same manner as the master family head. Goda-san must have wanted to earn some points by serving this honored guest with his own hands. After all, he was an extremely vain person. If he wasn't qualified to serve the master, then at least a guest of the same rank. He simply couldn't find time during lunch, so Kanen-san had gone in his place. But he truly desired to personally serve this person tonight's meal, the best dinner of the year. But Genji-san had put a stop to that. Something about how Goda-san didn't wear the golden eagle. After being told once more that he wasn't qualified, Goda-san lost his patience. So heartrending, Goda-san. I cannot do anything more than watch like this from the shadows. Kumasawa-san, if you have enough free time to dawdle around, please get the dining hall ready. Is the tablecloth set? My apologies. When it became her turn to bear his wrath, Kumasawa slid out into the hall. Beatrice-sama is of exactly the same rank as the master. All rules regarding her are to be respected just as much as those involving the master. Goto-san, please devote your attention entirely towards your own task and serve all the relatives. I wouldn't mind if it was you, Genji-san, but is it really okay to let a child like this serve such a guest? If she made some blunder, it would be quite embarrassing. I know they've served here a long time, but that doesn't mean they've been trained in the proper areas. If you allow me to speak freely, they are completely lacking the fundamentals that might qualify them to interact with such a guest. Goto spoke bluntly, even though Shannon was standing right there in the kitchen. Shannon was the one whom Genji had ordered to carry dinner to Beatrice's room. By the ranking system among the servants permitted to wear the golden eagle, Shannon certainly was the second highest in rank. In the highest rank, Genji went to set the table in Kinzo's room, and it fell to Shannon to set the table in Beatrice's room. Goto's pride was always horribly injured by this ranking system. At times like this, he'd speak out bluntly and rudely against Shannon and Cannon. Goto kept raising examples of each of Shannon's failures until now, making a ruckus about how she couldn't do this or was terrible at that. Shannon, who listened to this with her head hung in shame, heard Cannon's voice from behind her. Cannon had been leaning against the wall in the hallway near the kitchen entrance, a blind spot from the inside, and had been listening to all of this. He probably knew that if he entered the kitchen, sparks would start to fly this way. I've got to say it. The man's scum. But we could learn a lot about the fundamentals of entertaining our guests from him. Goto-san has learned so much, so he'd be a great reference. Nei-san, you sure are nice. More importantly, is the guest in the VIP room really Beatrice-sama, as they say? Yes. I met her when I was sent to serve her lunch. There can be no doubt it's her. Really? Was she doing well? Cannon remembered that he and Shannon had different impressions of Beatrice. To Shannon, Beatrice was a cupid of love who had granted her magic to establish a relationship with George. Judging by the expression that rose to her face, it looked like she couldn't wait to inform Beatrice of how her relationship with George had progressed. However, Cannon already knew. That witch came here with a terrifying goal in mind. The nebulous witch that only they'd been able to see in the past had now revived so fully that she could walk in openly through the front door, and even have dinner carried to her. Once, when she'd vanished from in front of the cannon, the witch said something about how her own power was still weak. So, if that witch was now appearing so openly, did it mean she'd finally regained her former power? And she said something else, too. She definitely said that she'd sown the seeds of love while fully aware that they would fail. And she said even more. She definitely said that the day had finally come, upon which the door to the Golden Land would be opened. Shannon, she's planning to hold some bizarre ceremony with the Master, and you can bet it'll be something too horrible to imagine, and no one will be able to resist. What are you talking about? You came here. You came here as the Master requested, so that the door to the Golden Land would open, and so that everything would be returned to the Golden Land. She definitely said that to me. In the past, the two of them, as furniture working for Kinzo, had been told what opening the door to the Golden Land meant. So Shannon understood everything without having to ask a single question, and because of that she felt a deep despair. Something tore at Kennan's heart as he looked at that expression, twisted with grief. How could... Why? Why now? Didn't I tell you? We are furniture. Because you acted like a human, because of love, you're incapable of obediently accepting the day our service comes to an end. Once, I wished this day would come, but it never came, year after year. I didn't know how long we'd be forced to endure suffering as furniture. So I thought that day of rest wouldn't come for all eternity. I thought the same thing, but I believed it would definitely come someday. So I never forgot that I'm furniture. But Nei-san, You did forget. It's my fault, isn't it? It was I who... Yeah, it's your fault, Nason. If only you hadn't experienced love, we'd both be happy this day has finally come. You built up too many pointless regrets, even though you knew you'd have to leave this world someday. Will the ceremony begin tonight? Yes. And she said one more thing. Tonight, George-sama will probably give you an engagement ring, Nason. That was a fact. George supposedly had an engagement ring hidden in his pocket today, and surely he would hand it over tonight. He brought you two together, planning to use you as the sacrifices of the second twilight. Get it? He tempted you and took advantage of you. I see. I never thought of that. But she told me. She promised that if you don't accept the engagement ring tonight, you won't be chosen as a sacrifice, Nason. I think our chances of being able to go to the Golden Land together are very slim. There will be 13 sacrifices. Only 5 will be left alive. The chances of us being part of that group are tiny. But if you just accept her offer, those chances will rise. I want to take that bet. Our salvation is in the Golden Land. We're gonna reach that place and gain humanity. And then, I want to live life as a human. Together with you, Nason. If we do that, we might be able to find true love. In the past, we used to dream about being able to go to the Golden Land. If we go there, any wish will be granted. We'll be saved from this pain. That's what we believed. However, in this ceremony, only a few people would be invited to the Golden Land, chosen by fate and chance. Everyone else would lose their life as a sacrifice midway through the ceremony. However, in the past, Shannon and Cannon had thought that whether they reached the Golden Land or were sacrificed, they would still be released from their duties as furniture. That meant the ceremony would definitely bring release to furniture like them, no matter what happened. I don't like it. Together with you, I want to make up for all the suffering we've endured. I won't become a sacrifice. Nason and I will remain alive, and we'll reach the Golden Land together. But I won't let you become the sacrifice of the second twilight. Please, Nason, don't accept that man's ring. If you don't accept it, he promised not to select you as a sacrifice. I cannot do that. Tonight's ring is very special. My heart won't let me refuse it. Nason, the sacrifices of the ceremony are decided on the witch's whims, and that witch has promised to overlook just you, Nason. You alone will definitely be able to go to the Golden Land. Only me? What about you, Cannon-kun? The witch's game is enough for me. I'll slip through her clutches. I am not powerless. I'll tightly grasp that faint chance. After all, our lives are transient, aren't they? In order to begin our real lives, let's drag ourselves to the Golden Land. Then, we will gain humanity. Thank you. And when we've done that, I need to fix that. Maybe I'll be able to experience romance just like you, Nason. Maybe I won't have to make someone cry just because I'm furniture. Cannon-kun, I've had enough of being furniture. I'll definitely become human. I'll escape this pain, no matter what. There were tears in Cannon's eyes. By now, Cannon had noticed. Shannon hadn't been the only one to know and suffer from the taste of love. He had too. The tears Jessica had shown him that day, and Jessica's pitiful face as she tried to smooth things over and stay bright ever since then, had slowly wrought some kind of change on Kennen's heart without him knowing it. Alrighty then. Jenin, I have been calling to you for some time now. Jenin jumped at the sudden sound of Genji's voice. Apparently he had called for her repeatedly. She hurriedly answered. When she turned back, Kennen had disappeared. It seemed he didn't feel like showing his tears to anybody. Yes, I'm sorry for being careless. I entrusted Kennen with lunch, but it should have been you, as the next in rank after me, who carried it. Beatrice-sama is the most honored guest of this house. There is no more honored guest than her. Please think of her as another master, and be polite. Please, take extra care that you make no blunders. Understand? It is quite painful for me to entrust this to someone as inexperienced as yourself, but there's nothing we can do about the house's rules. Carry out your duties with the utmost of care. Goda had officially agreed, but he glared at Shannon with an expression that told her he definitely wouldn't forgive any mistakes. Even Shannon felt that Goda might as well go himself if he was so desperate to go. But she considered this one of her responsibilities as one who had been allowed to wear the golden eagle, and had to give it up. And anyway, I wanted to meet Beatrice. What will I talk about? What will I ask? I don't know. Will this be a meeting of gratitude? Or one of grief? Or else... what? I don't know. Shannon piled the witch's food onto the serving carts and left the kitchen at a slow pace. The person knocking was Kraus. Father, today is our annual family conference. Haven't the siblings gathered here just to get a glimpse of you? Be silent. I say I won't leave. You're there too, aren't you, Genji? Why haven't you had my food brought here as I ordered you to? Kinzo screamed across the door. Genji was waiting behind Kraus. Your meal has been prepared so that it might be carried to the study. However, Kraus-sama has expressed his wish that you eat downstairs tonight. Father, I'm not asking you to do this every day. Just for this one night, won't you gather together with your family? Who are you calling family? Since when have you considered vultures circling in weight of roadkill to be family? Would you call rotting, oozing maggots family as well? My. Kraus shrugged at this answer, which he had half expected. Genji, carry the meal here as you were told. Why don't you listen to what I say? Why? Why? Genji-san, I leave this in your capable hands. My voice will no longer reach that man. Kraus gave his head a small shake, then quickly turned his back on the door to the study. He had only come calling to save face in front of his siblings, knowing full well how useless this was. After Genji watched Kraus disappear down the stairs, he called again across the door. Master, we have finished preparations for your meal to be carried here. Shall we bring some for Dr. Nanjo as well? Nanjo could be seen in the study. Because Kinzo had forcefully pestered him into finishing their long-lasting chess game, they had been playing against each other since the early evening. Nanjo had announced as the doctor that Kinzo's days were numbered, so he couldn't refuse if Kinzo demanded that they finish this game while he still lived. Kinzo was thinking deeply about his move, concentrating more than usual. It had been Kinzo's turn for quite some time, and Nanjo, who was tired of waiting, had randomly pulled out a book on magic that he couldn't understand and was skimming it. Kinzo-san, you won't think of a good move just by folding your arms and sitting in front of the board. Perhaps we had better take a break and refresh our minds. Be silent. That should be enough to solidify my defense. Will the bishop and the knight be able to penetrate that opening? Today, Kinzo was focused on maintaining a strong defense. Normally, Kinzo's motto was that offense was the best defense. However, today was completely the opposite. I am also hungry. Shall we suspend the game here? Besides, I've used my head so much without a break that I'm already feeling dizzy. At this rate, I might not be able to perform at my best. No, that won't do. In chess, both players must always make their best moves. Any other sort of move is merely a nuisance to consider, ruining a game whose goal is predicting your opponent's thoughts. Such a thing considerably reduces our enjoyment. Kinzo sighed deeply and finally shifted his gaze away from the board. Chess isn't chess without an opponent. If that opponent is tired and wants to suspend the game, there's no getting around it. True. The goal of chess is for both players to make the best possible moves and aim for victory. It's an intellectual game where reading your opponent is key. Kinzo-san, have you forgotten that there's another goal besides victory? What? What other goal could there possibly be? To think that you of all people would forget something like that. Chess is a way to pass the time having fun with a friend. You've got me there. I believe I once said those exact words to you, long ago. Yes, you've got me there. Kinzo, who almost always wore a frown, relaxed his face for once and laughed. Nanjo felt like he'd been reunited with a close friend he hadn't seen in ages. That's how it is. Now that I've managed to take a shot back at you, what do you say? Will you go down with me and have dinner? Why don't we discuss Kasparov's middle game along with some coffee? An appealing proposition, but I'm afraid I must decline. I can no longer leave this room. After all, the ceremony has already begun. Is that so? Well, my stomach is growling. I will go downstairs. Anytime you feel like it. Nanjo. Thank you. Oh? What could you be thanking me for? We didn't finish our match. However, it seems I have somehow achieved that second goal of chess, which I had forgotten. And it would appear that goal is no less important than achieving checkmate. This isn't like you. Why so sentimental? You said it yourself, did you not? My days in this world are numbered. Now go. And don't come into this room again. Let us continue this match in the Golden Land. That's fine with me, but we'll have to start over. Losing that rook was a serious blow. Well then, I will see you later. Yes, later. Maybe in the Golden Land, or in Purgatory, or possibly in the next world. Nanjo didn't say anything beyond that, and, with a motion made smooth by familiarity, he pushed the button on the table that would release the auto-lock. Then, after looking at Kinzo's back one last time, he left the study. As he did, Genji's voice came from the hall. If you are ready, master, I will now carry in your dinner. It may be my final dinner. I must savor it. Please, prepare it. As you wish. And are your preparations complete as well, master? Indeed. In the time leading up to this day, this room has been carefully wrapped in a multitude of barriers. Even if roulette chooses me, I will definitely repel it. I will remain alive, and will surely become one of those who reach the Golden Land. I shall repulse the visit of the Reapers, trying to drag me off to the land of the dead. Excuse me. I have come to serve your meal. Shannon entered the VIP room, bowing her head and pushing the serving cart. The young woman by the window, gazing out in the supposedly empty darkness, was definitely that witch. So, it is Shannon this time. How long it's been? Oh, your face isn't nearly as pale as it once was. I can see you're no canon. I hardly recognize you. Thank you very much. Shannon solemnly prepared dinner. There were actually several things she wanted to ask the witch, but they were all jumbled up and she didn't know where to start. Her heart was also jumbled up and she didn't even understand her own emotions. Though she could only do her job dispassionately with everything still vague. However, the witch saw what was in her heart. You can't hide anything from a witch. I won't apologize. I am a witch after all. Apologize? For what? Come now. Canon must have told you about it. I only rescued your love life because of my mischievous spirit. It was nothing more than a seed I sowed so I could watch your love grow, complicated, become twisted, and fail. I imagine some people think it's more fun to hear about love than to have it. You couldn't possibly be trying to thank me, right? I am. No matter what kind of ulterior motive you had when you gave me the magic of love, it doesn't change the fact that I received it from you. So even if you sowed that seed, knowing that the two of us wouldn't be able to stay together for life, I won't hold a grudge against you. It seems furniture is dull after all. This is where I show my skill by cooking it into something interesting. I don't understand what you're thinking, Beatrice-sama. You are a great witch, and people like us don't even reach your feet. Nor can we even imagine your grand thoughts. But there is at least one thing I can say. What is it? Thank you for teaching me to be human. You said it yourself. I am no longer furniture. Be silent, furniture. If you were a true human, hearing the announcement of your death on the day that you were to receive an engagement ring, would have you dancing around mad with grief. But what are you doing? Your face looks so enlightened, as though you've accepted everything. Truly an anticlimax, furniture. No, I am not furniture. Be silent, furniture. I won't be silent, because I'm not furniture. Are you saying you won't obey my orders? Furniture obeys orders, but a human decides for herself whether to obey orders or not. So I won't obey your orders. I take back what I said. You really are interesting. If I hadn't sowed those seeds, you probably would have allowed the ceremony to control your fate without clinging to any emotions. But now you've grown to become something truly interesting. Something that will entertain me to no end. That is well, for I am not fond of boredom. Dinner is ready. Here you go. Does this look delicious? If Godo makes it to the Golden Land, perhaps I shall commission him as my chief cook. I heard from Canon-kun something about how, if I rejected George-san's proposal, he promised not to make me a sacrifice. Indeed. I said as much. You would make an ideal potential sacrifice for the second Twilight. But because Canon cried and screamed, asking that I spare you, I graciously listened to his words. With the condition that you abandon your engagement, of course. See how gracious I am. What a foolish offer. And what a foolish threat. So, you used that to thoroughly bully Canon-kun, did you? Oh, so you comprehend. Apparently, Shannon had seen through it. He had apparently guessed at how the witch had bullied and humiliated Canon with that horrible promise as bait. I made him crawl on the carpet and kiss my shoes. And that's not all. Do you want to hear the other ways in which I humiliated him? Shannon silently shook her head. I finally come to understand you. You like to bully, confuse, and trouble people, and you do it to entertain yourself. So now I know for sure the one single way I can resist you. And what might that be? I don't care about you. I'll carry out the fate that has been given to me. That's all. I won't entertain you. I don't care about you? The witch's features twisted in hatred for just an instant. It disappeared immediately, but the expression that briefly rose to her face was rare for the witch, whose malicious smile usually never faded for a second. I see. So you might resist me in that way. How amusing. How truly entertaining. I'll kill you. You and your lover both. If that's the fate you've decided upon, do as you will. I won't be afraid, and I won't stand against you. After all, I don't believe the cruel fate that's coming is something controlled by your will. We humans know nothing about fates that might come to pass in the future. That's why I'll live to the fullest until the last instant, following my convictions and the fate set before me. Fate is just a roll of the dice. There's no malice in it. Even if you claim there is, I won't believe it. Oh? So, even though you've quit being furniture, you have no fear of death. It seems you believe this will bore me, but you couldn't be more wrong. The thought of seeing whether you can hold on to that view until the last moment merely serves to intrigue me more and more. I can't stand this. Why did you take the form of a human, appear in front of us, speak with human words, and ridicule us? If you hadn't appeared in front of us, if you hadn't predicted the future, we would have been able to live life to the fullest until the last moment. That's what witches do. I live off your fates, reigning as a high-order being does over low-order beings. Your fates are nothing more than fragments. If I cut my hands together, I could scoop out as many of those as I want. Just like how no matter what the beef cows I raise might babble, it doesn't change the fact that I'll be having them for dinner. We are powerless, so we cannot fight against your ceremony or fate. But I can make you unhappy right now. Oh? And how are you planning to accomplish this? By walking away from this place right now. No matter how I respond to your words, it will only amuse you. Refusing to respond to your questions is my only method of resisting you. I see. You might be able to take a shot at me, but you can't defeat me, yes? I have the power to kill anyone, for eternity. I cannot wait to see whether you can keep up that resistance. in an endlessly repeating cycle of death and rebirth. Don't you forget it, okay? You spoke those words yourself. Well then, if you'll excuse me, if you need anything, please call me. Shannon gave a reserved bow and faced away. With that gesture, maybe she really did take a shot back at the witch, just as Beatrice had said. Because, when the witch called out again, she sounded a little more quick-tempered than she had before. Shannon thanks me. Can't you? Can't you thank me for bringing you your day of rest? Furniture may be happy when their day of rest comes, but I am a human, so I have nothing to thank you for. Is that all you have to say? You plan to accept George's ring, yes? Don't forget that if you do, I will abandon the promise I made with Canon, the promise that you would not be selected as a sacrifice. If you need anything else, I'll have someone else come. If you'll excuse me. A flat-out interruption. Shannon still hadn't answered her, and the sound of the door closing came instead of an answer. Shannon's resistance probably struck far more deeply into the witch than Shannon herself thought, because an expression of hatred once again rose to Beatrice's face. He had made Cannon submit, even though he hadn't been ensnared until the end, whereas Shannon, who had been so easily ensnared before, refused to submit this time. I see. So, this state of affairs is amusing after all. Perhaps I really am still young. This is why I haven't tired of life after 1,000 years. That actually is a decent stopping point for now. I'm not quite sure where else this is gonna go, but it's a good spot to stop for today. The story is getting weird, complicated, interesting, and bizarre. But yeah, so this is the new version, the new modded version with the voices, animation, and I think some music as well has been improved. I'm not entirely sure on what all went into changing. Oh yeah, here's the new profile for Beatrice, I guess. Give me a sec to save and I'll go back to it. But yeah, Beatrice with her new outfit. It's an odd one. Boots and stockings and a skirt and a business shirt. That's definitely an interesting outfit. Oh yeah, here's Jessica-san in her whole outfit. That's strikingly familiar. I don't know. It might mean something, it might not. Anyway, that'll be it for today. Thank you for joining in. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I do. It's a bit hard to wrap my brain around a bit, but I'm giving it my best. And fate will land where it lands. Anyway, I'm off. Gonna eat breakfast, do some things. Have a good day, everyone.